Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the first 2023 edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your co-host, Big Wos, aka Wosy Lambre, and I'm joined by my brother, Nando Vila. What's going on, big man?
Just excited for 2023, dude. Can you
20,
believe? Can you believe 1993 was 30 years ago?
it's insane. It's
And
inconceivable.
2003 was 20 years ago?
So 1993 is definitely the year that I became sentient because I was 5 back
Yeah,
then. Like I remember my kindergarten teacher's name and I remember what street I lived on. Like I remember life as a 5-year-old
yeah.
in 1993. 2003 just literally just feels like yesterday. I was
It
a
feels like yesterday, dude. Yeah,
it just feels like yesterday. Like I was a high schooler, just a young punk obsessed with basketball, rap, girls. So in other words, nothing's really changed. But but no, man, 2003 just seems like yesterday. And what's funny is next month, like around my birthday, is the 20th anniversary of Get Rich or Die Trying. 50 Cent's like ridiculously successful
yeah,
album. Of course, he's a Queens native. I was living in Queens at the time when that was happening. I was just like, it's been 20 years since that explosion happened, which is just crazy. But yeah, happy new year to everybody watching the show. Happy holidays. Hope you guys enjoy yourself. We were on a hiatus, but we're super happy to be back. The World Cup is over. Premier League has finally started back. But yeah, we ain't off for the soccer news yet, guys. We're still
no,
getting into soccer and the just messy, juicy pettiness of the U.S. men's national team. That like the fallout from the World Cup continues. Backstabbing, gossiping, snitch. It's crazy. We're gonna get into that. And what the ramifications of that might be. But first, we gotta talk about GOP dysfunction. We rarely do that kind of show up here because
yeah.
honestly, Nando, the GOP, they kind of
It's
move in
boring.
lockstep. Like
Yeah,
they don't really have this kind of thing happen in a meaningful way. You'll see every now and again, oh, Trump, he backed one GOP guy instead of another in a primary, or,
yeah,
you'll see some little baby backfighting and infighting. But what they're doing to Kevin McCarthy's bid to try to get the speakership of the House with their narrow ass margin and majority is freaking hilarious. And to be clear, by the time you guys hear this on Thursday, they might have resolved this and Kevin McCarthy might be in by now. But the point still stands. At last checked, it's been 6 votes, and this guy has come up 20 votes short. With a group of, these guys are calling themselves hardline, real Republican right wingers, led by Matt Gaetz, who's like under investigation for statutory rape or something like that. He's the one leading the charge, and it's crazy, Nando. It's crazy because we have to explain to folks that like there's no other path. Like they have no path to actually bringing forth a candidate that they like, right? Like they don't have the
yeah.
votes for it. No candidate exists that's gonna, sort of backstab the party establishment and go against McCarthy and make this into like a legitimate civil war. Um, they're just doing this because they don't fuck with him and they
Yeah.
don't like him. They've made him give up these ridiculous concessions around chasing Joe Biden's kid's dick around in a committee or like all kinds of stupid shit. They're just doing this to give him lashes, Nando. Like, what is the other explanation behind this?
I mean, I think you're right to point out that it's purely superficial. I mean, I was just thinking while you were talking about the difference between the Dems and the GOP, and it's funny because the GOP is ideologically more coherent than the
Yeah.
Dems, right? But they're stylistically more, disparate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
And they're more
in
willing
a
to like,
sense to explain that to people, like Nancy Pelosi and AOC are allegedly from both different wings of the party, but like their
and
affect and their
it's the
approach is
same.
the same. You
Yes.
know,
Like, and the difference between like say Nancy Pelosi, to put a good example, is like a conservative Dem, and AOC. AOC like would probably call herself a socialist, right? Like,
Yeah,
like let's,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like whether we have our criticisms of her or whatever, but like ideologically, like her and Nancy Pelosi are like, you know, but because the Dems are so obsessed with decorum and
Hmm.
politeness
Yep.
and shit like that, which again is probably an effect to discipline, people like AOC. And the fact that AOC buys into that is probably for the worse. But the fact is that they're kind of like part of this little club in which they'll have to be nice to each other. And the GOP, there is no real difference between, I don't know, who's the most conservative Republican, whatever.
What does
I
that
mean,
even mean these days?
it doesn't
Like
even mean
a
it's like,
Mike
yeah, I
Huckabee
guess,
type? Like, what does it mean to be the
yeah, they
most
don't,
conservative?
it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? So like they agree on basically everything, but they're mad about all kinds of culture war bullshit, stylistic
Mhm.
issues that don't make any difference, and they're more willing to be kind of rambunctious about it and to yell at each other in a way that the Dems are not. Which again, like this speaker fight is hilarious.
It's just funny.
But it's really funny. Um, it's not it's not gonna mean much from a actual hard policy standpoint. Like they're not asking for any consent. It's not like they're saying like, oh,
Wait, you
we need
said
him to
not
pass.
mean much from hard policy. Let's be clear. They're not asking for any policy stuff. They've asked for again. They claim they want to investigate Hunter Biden. They might want to impeach Joe Biden. They claim to want to investigate the FBI and CIA. Check the investigate the investigators. Basically, some Trump type of shit. What was the last thing? Fuck. Oh, they said they want to investigate Nancy Pelosi's tax returns, which do
I
it.
wanted to, yeah.
But yeah, it's not. They're not talking about if you do this, we want you to bring up like privatization of Social Security in the House, or we want you to do this.
It,
We like they. It's none of that.
but
None of that.
it brings up an interesting point because I think what politics has become, and what people who are obsessed with politics, like the people who are like watching MSNBC or Fox News all day, what politics has become is not a fight over resources or
No.
the structures of capital, capital versus labor. It's not about like any meaningful policy thing. It's barely even about some of the social issues anymore. About like, but it's more about like when we're in power, when our team is in power, how effectively or aggressively are we going to use our state power to punish the people I don't like, the libs, And
Yeah.
then the libs, like what they want to do is like do the same thing to conservatives, right? That was one of the provocations of that show, The Watchmen. Did you
Hmm.
see that show on HBO?
Of
Where it's
course.
like, what would the Damon Lindelof, who's a kind of squishy lib, he took the thought process of like, what if the squishy libs like me took over the state and we just like punished the right wingers, the racists, and that we don't like, and we instituted a kind of liberal dictatorship. You know what I mean? Like that's what politics has become. Like he understood kind of what politics is now and just took it to an extreme. And then, 'cause that's what it is. It's like, oh, we're in power now, and you're not fucking harassing Hunter Biden every day
You're not
to
doing a good job of it. Yeah.
you're not doing a good job. Like it doesn't affect anyone's life. Like Hunter Biden's story is kind of sad, tragic, probably also corrupt. I mean, like the Ukraine shit is super corrupt, but it doesn't affect us in any meaningful way. Like it doesn't affect anyone in any meaningful way. And the fact that that's like what they're obsessed with, it just means like we don't like them because they're on the other team. How can we punish them the most?
Yeah, and again, I think what's important to watch this one because they are legitimately like they are cucking the hell out of Kevin McCarthy, right? Like they are legitimately embarrassing this dude, like for their own enjoyment. It seems like that's a one, and what it says about our politics today. To just a point that the point that Nando was making about the parties and the styles, right? The Democrats, on the one hand, in their coalition, is a lot more heterogeneous, meaning it's a bunch of people from different races, different backgrounds, different income distribution on the tax brackets and all of that. Like it's legitimately a diverse coalition So it's hard to wrangle the different interests, if you will, a lot of times, right? Like people like me and Nando might be like, yo, we need to expand the shit out of Social Security, Medicaid for all, blah, 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 all of that. Where like a lot of these Democrats, like it's proven like they don't really give a fuck about that shit. Like it's just
Yeah.
obvious. Like a lot of Democrats don't care too much about that, right? Whereas the Republicans, it's like 90% white, mostly on the upper distribution of the tax bracket. So it's just like there's nothing like these people have, they know what they want, you know, for the
Yeah.
most part. The constituencies, and there's some, of course, there's some differences when you talk about rural people and, you know, certain uneducated whites or whatever you want to say. But the Democrats literally have people with college degrees, without, black, white, Latin, Asian, you name it, all of it is there. The Republicans are just a bunch of white people who mostly are well off, right? Like that's just basically what it is. But their representatives are just like they have to act muscular. And you know, Kevin McCarthy he's a rhino, he's a Republican in name only. Like what? Like show me this this diversity of Republican that like nobody can show you this person, not as like a politician or really a voter.
No, it's really wild. I mean, it's really funny, and people are glued to their television because politics has become a kind of a
It's
reality,
good
like a
theater. Yeah.
like a Truman Show type situation. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it's just an ongoing kind of thing. Um, but it is kind of funny. I mean, Kevin McCarthy, who fucking sucks. You know,
Yeah.
he's from like around. He represents a district around here, kind of like the Inland Empire, which is just
Mm.
like shitty. You know, like
Yeah.
that's
Sorry,
like
Inland
the
Empire
nether.
people who are listening. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry.
Riverside folks,
I
but yeah,
feel
it's not great.
I feel like people who are from the Inland Empire know it's kind of demonic,
Yeah.
you know, in a
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
way. Like that
Yeah.
there's just kind of a, you know, and he fucking sucks. So it's fun to watch him squirm. I mean, because imagine like it's just like you just gotta love watching someone who's just been evil his whole life, working for like a goal to become the speaker of the motherfucking house.
And it's right
He's so
there.
it's like he can taste it. And for the stupidest bullshit, some fucking
Matt
20-year
fucking Geitz
psych
is standing in
Gates,
front
yeah,
of you, bro.
some fucking the guy who he looks like the fucking villain from The Incredibles, Matt Gates. He
Bro.
looks like that demonic kid from The Incredibles. Is just standing in his way, just like gleefully going like, "I'm gonna make you fucking squirm for this one." He probably will still get it. I mean, I was like talking to some of my friends in my group chat, you know, who are kind of like liberals or whatever, and they're like, you know, I would like to see Dems cut a
Oh
deal with
God,
like moderate
Jesus
Republicans,
Christ.
and I'm like, if the Democrats do that,
Jesus Christ, bro.
like this is like it is one of the options on the table. I still don't believe it'll happen. I mean, again, we this is like one of those weird pods where it could have all been resolved by tomorrow. But like, if the Dems cut a deal with the Republicans to install Kevin fucking McCarthy as Speaker of the House, they are the most cucked people who have ever lived. Like
It's
that would be
absurd. But
unforgivable.
but he, you know, he floated that to Matt Gaetz, and then Matt Gates, whatever the guy's name is, and said, "Yo, I can get, you know, I can whip up 10 Democratic Party votes that'll save me or whatever," which is a stupid bluff because that would make you look crazy to Republicans. Like
It'll
you're
make you look.
cutting your
It fits their argument perfectly. It makes you look like a fucking
like
rhino.
like that is that would be career suicide on your part. Like that's crazy that he would even make that threat, but it makes me feel like it's not completely impossible that they could, you know, extract this value from the Dems and then just tell them to go fuck themselves after, because the Dems don't know how to negotiate. They never know how to use leverage. They're always getting
Yeah.
fucked
They're
over.
probably going to
So
get what they're going to negotiate is like $5 billion more for Ukraine
of
in the next
course, yeah.
package.
Of course, but yeah, it's just funny to watch it again, to just watch it all play out. And the reason why this is also, it's also ridiculous because it's like they're the crazies are like negotiating with this guy for like plum seats on committees and all of that stuff. And like you can't get to the process of, you know, chasing Hunter Biden's dick down the beltway before like swearing in a speaker of the house. Like you can't do any of your crazy shit before this happens. So it's like they're sort of shooting their nose to spite their face too. But that's why this is just kabuki theater and hilarious and ultimately kind of meaningless except to say that, you know, oh, just another thing too for people to understand. It's like Marjorie Taylor Greene happens to be on board with
McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy. Like he cut a deal with her and a couple of people or whatever. But I think this is also a sign that the footsie that the party has been playing with, like the quote unquote lunatic fringe, like this Frankenstein monster that they've been fucking dicking around with since, like, you know, basically Ronald Reagan starts his campaign in Mississippi talking about states' rights. Like, that Frankenstein monster has become sentient, and these people are actually in the fucking United States
Congress.
Congress, guys. Like, these aren't just people you just
Yeah, that's the thing is
patronize
like
for votes
the
anymore.
like
They have power now.
these people think that Joe Biden is like literally doing blood sacrifices to demonic occult forces. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're gonna cut a deal with some Democrats to fucking become Speaker of the House. But this is like a funny one. This is like a funny little. This is like one of those things where you just kind of want to watch the chaos continue. This is a headline from Semaphore, Ben Smith's new site. House members are worried that the speaker fight is messing with important national security issues. Get this, Waz. This is from the article. House members are worried that the Republican brawl over who will be the next speaker has left them unable to conduct routine national security business, since members of the Chamber's Intelligence Committee can't receive briefings involving classified information until the leadership fight is resolved and Congress is fully sworn in. The situation could prevent lawmakers from keeping a careful eye on ongoing issues like the war in Ukraine.
The fuck out of here. Like, this idea that these dudes get these briefings and that's how they save the world is fucking
Yeah,
absurd. It
yeah.
is
Congress is lucky they even like Congress
absurd.
is lucky they even fucking inform them what the fuck's going on.
They
You
don't
know?
play a role in foreign politics, foreign policy. Like, you guys have no role. Like, that is an absurd report. This idea that,
Yeah,
like, yeah, they carefully comb through these security briefs based on their positions on, you know, the intelligence committee or the, you know, the judiciary or the, it's like, suck a dick. Come on, man. Nobody believes that shit. The average
uh,
congressperson ain't thinking about national security. Are you
yeah.
kidding me,
Well,
man?
they
That
don't, or they
that
like to
dude or
pretend they do. Like they like to cosplay that they're fucking, getting the briefings, and then they're getting the
oh,
thing, and then they're making it like
please,
they don't give a shit about like what some congressperson
please.
thinks.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Like, they will no influence in that area. You know, if
yeah,
anything, they just rubber stamp what people from the national security sort of apparatus tell them to do. Like, they don't have any fucking discernment. That's crazy.
yeah,
Anyway, man, I'm sure, like, as if you watching the news, if you open up Washington Post or New York Times today, this is what they're all obsessed with right now. So I figured we'd talk about it. But man, I needed to get into this Greg Berhalter story because, Nando, this is up there, man. This is
yeah.
not quite Benzema blackmailing and extorting his teammate, but this is quite salacious. So let's bring it back, right? Let's bring it all the way back to the World Cup where Gio Reyna, who most people thought was like the best guy on the freaking US men's national team, is benched, not getting playing time. Nobody understands what's going on. They don't know if he's hurt, if he's out of shape. What the deal is, he's not playing. Finally, reports come out after the World Cup. It's basically like, Nando, he didn't play at first and he started sulking. He started dogging it in practice. He just wasn't working as hard as the group. And it became such a nasty situation that his teammates were explaining to the coach, like, you can't put that guy in. You know, like, we actually bust our ass every day. We know the work that we put in to get to the World Cup, to put ourselves in this position. People got left home who bust their ass to be here. And this guy, he doesn't just come here and think he's entitled to minutes and hot dog it. And so, you know, the coach essentially benched him at the behest of the players. Okay, the players were behind this decision. Okay. And to me, that's the best freaking discipline or coaching that can happen when it's done amongst the peers, amongst the players. Okay, cool. Berhalter goes to some leadership summit. He's bragging about how tough he was on a certain player out there. He claims to think it was going to stay private, whatever. Um, and it gets out, and people are pissed off. It's just like, yo, we handled this in house. Why are you sharing this with people? This shit is becoming public. Now you're embarrassing, dude. Now the punishment for the guy who hot dogged it, Reina over there, is extending past
By the
what it
way,
needed
it's
to be.
important to point out Reina is 19 years old.
Yes, he's a child.
He's a fucking kid,
He's a child, okay?
Yeah.
That is extremely important to point out. So he learned his lesson. He'll be at the next World Cup because it's in North America anyway. We don't even have to qualify for this shit. He
Yeah.
will definitely be at the next World Cup. It's going to be great, right? Like he'll have learned a lesson. It's going to be great. And so it gets out that this dude is talking smack about how tough of a coach he is and how he put his foot down and all of that. And Nando, I would like for you to take over as to what has happened subsequently since then, because this is just soap opera shit. This is like watching Gossip
Dude.
Girl at the OC or something.
Yeah. So it basically came out that at first it seemed like Claudio Reyna, who is Gio Reyna's father and one of the best American players to ever play, right? Like he was one of the first kind of like really good American players, if that makes sense.
Wow.
He played in
Okay.
Europe for a little bit, and he
Got
was the
you.
captain of the 2002 team that made it to the quarterfinals, the best ever finish for the World Cup. He's like a stud, you know. And and by the way, also worth pointing out, childhood friends with Greg Berhalter, the coach. So Claudio Reyna, Gio's father, came up in New Jersey soccer. They were on the same fucking club team as the coach Greg Berhalter. Claudio Reyna's father, I think, was the coach of the club team when they were on it together.
Wow.
Okay, so they
Oh my
go
God.
fucking way back. Okay, they married. Greg Berhalter and Claudio Reyna married two women who were college roommates at UNC and played on the soccer team.
Of
Okay,
course.
um,
So these people are close.
close.
This
Okay,
is
and
this is
their wives are close. Their
yes,
wives
yes.
are very close. The wives were college roommates. Okay, and were teammates on the soccer team and shit. Claudio Reyna. So it seemed like at first it seemed like it was Claudio Reyna. Now it looks like it was Danielle Reyna, or at least that's the officials. That's what the Reynas are
Mhm.
saying. That they informed the leadership of U.S. soccer that back when in college in 1991, Greg Berhalter assaulted
His
his
wife, his
now
now
wife,
wife, his
yeah,
then
his now
girlfriend.
wife,
Yep.
his then girlfriend. Um,
1991. We're not
1991 when he
making
was
light of domestic violence or any of
no,
that stuff, but he was 18 years old and all of that stuff. And so what's come out is that, and this is the official version from
yeah,
Gio Reyna's mom, like Danielle Reyna, basically this is official. She's saying, because my son was having a poor World Cup experience and it was at the hands of this coach who is not some stranger, a guy who I've known since I'm 18, 17, whatever years old. I informed the management, the powers that be at US men's soccer, that he once had a domestic disturbance issue with his now wife when he was 18. I just thought they should know this because her son didn't get no burn in the World Cup.
yeah. I mean, it's the I can see the thought process. I mean, outside of like just the pure kind of revenge, I can see the thought process like, oh, you think my 19-year-old kid is being a bit of a punk? Like what were you like when you were fucking that age?
Sure,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Like, like
No, but that's
like
just
you don't have any leeway for like a 19-year-old being a little bit of a punk, especially one who's been like one of the most talented players of his generation or maybe
yeah.
one of the most talented American soccer players ever since he was a fucking kid. His father was on the fucking team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, that kid's gonna be a fucking punk. I mean, you and I played sports. There was always like that
Yeah, yeah,
kid
yeah, yeah,
who was just like
100%.
supernaturally
He's
talented,
entitled.
more talented
Yeah,
than you.
he's just entitlement. It's just pure
Yeah,
entitlement. Then you add the Gen Z aspect to it. Oh, Lord have
yeah,
mercy. God
Yeah.
Almighty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I before any of this kind of went down, I thought like
Hold
the
on, one
fact
more
that
thing, one more
Berhalter,
thing, one more
yeah,
thing. Berhalter put out a statement saying, "Yo, people running a smear campaign against me. I'm gonna come out and tell you what happened. It was 30 years ago. We drunkenly got into a fight at the bar. He says that he kicked her in her leg. No police were called, whatever. They made up. 7 months later, they got together. They've since married. They've been together for 30 years. They've got kids, all of that. We grew stronger out of the situation, whatever. People trying to blackmail me, smear my name. He comes out with that statement. Danielle rebuttals
yeah.
and
Like
says,
a
well,
little worse than that.
actually, that
Yeah.
was my roommate. He's downplaying the extent of the abuse and the trauma he caused. I was the one who healed her, who helped heal her afterwards. This guy's full of crap. He actually really did a number on. I was like, boy, this is crazy. It's insane.
No, it's not like I honestly like my before I knew any of the inner workings or whatever, and you always have to wait to see this, but like my thought was like watching the US play in the World Cup. The US isn't like a fucking stacked ass team.
No, they're
I
not.
always find that if a coach can't find a way to get his best players on the field working together, and playing well and maximizing the limited talent pool that you have, which the US does have it's not like, yeah, Brazil fucking loses whatever, they could get some
Yeah,
other guy who's fucking
yeah,
amazing. You know what I mean?
right. Mm-hmm.
It would be like an Argentina. I mean, it's not quite the same thing because Gio Reyna's nowhere near as good as this. But like, imagine if some Argentina coach just had a problem with Messi.
Right.
Like just to put an exaggerated
Or not
example, like
even, or even like Di
who's gonna win out in that
Maria.
fight?
Like,
Yeah, or Di
you know what
Maria.
I'm saying? Like a
Yeah,
big part of the team.
yeah. So I was thinking like, man, the fact that Gio Reyna, played only 50 minutes or something in 4 games during this World Cup with a very limited attack. Like the U.S., one of the biggest problems the U.S. had was like they just didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
good forwards,
Yep.
And Gio Reyna is a forward and can make things happen and can score goals and can make shit happen. That's an indictment on the coach. Like I'm
Right.
sorry, like and the U.S. like has to find a way to get Gio Reyna to play because he's just so much better than like his replacement guy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, man, seeing all this, I wonder if like the Reyna family has just raised like, or they're just like kind of like psycho soccer moms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That have
Feels that
like,
way.
and like in a way, but sometimes that kind of thing like does create a great like it does kind of make a child kind of psychotically focused on soccer that'll then make them better. You know what I mean? But it does feel like maybe like the
No,
teammates don't like him that
middle
much.
manager,
Like
the way he is, Berhalter, let's face it, that's what coaches are. They're middle management.
yeah,
And this guy, this kid who is clearly more important than you on the pecking order of the
yeah,
organization, but you have authority. And then it's like his parents are like this is what they did, behind the scenes. You can only imagine the kind of conversations or voice messages or emails or text messages that might have been exchanged, secondhand convos that might have happened. Like, you can't even imagine what these people have done outside of this. And who knows what the players are privy to and all of that. And to me, again, that's the most important. Like, the players who, I think a lot of people don't understand this aspect of professional sports. There's a sort of separation of church and state that goes on, in the sense that the coaches are their own entity. They're like a separate division of the company. The players are their own company, division, whatever you want to call, and coaching and management, like, there's something else. They're other. They're them.
yeah,
And so for the players to look at a disciplinary action against one of their own and be like, no, it's justified, and decide with management and coaching, like, that takes a lot. The players don't come to that
no,
easily. That's not how locker rooms are structured. Like, these guys really look at it as like, yo, we're part of essentially a brotherhood, a fraternity, damn near fraternal order. And those other cats who don't go out there and do what we do, put the blood, sweat, and tears on the field, they're them. And so, like,
Yeah.
I don't think that could be discounted. Like, Berhalter might have wanted to be some fake hard rock, but like the players were behind him. Like, that's
Oh
what's
no,
been,
totally,
you know?
totally. I think the Berl saying that shit at the fucking I can't even say his fucking name. Saying that shit at the leadership conference is one of the stupidest things I can imagine. I
Dumb.
can remember a coach doing. That's fucking naivete. Like, oh yeah, I
Dumb.
was officially off the record. You're at an event. Okay,
Yeah.
you're speaking in public. You know what I mean? Like, this is the fucking social media era. You know, people have fucking phones. People are recording shit. People are taking pictures. Like,
Yeah.
to think that that's not going to be a public thing. First of all, you shouldn't even say it outside of like your very trusted circle of like your family and maybe like your
Right.
staff and things like that.
Hmm.
Like, you shouldn't be bad mouthing your, especially like a player with
A
that kind of
very
stature.
important player. Yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you really should not be doing that because that undermines. I mean, because then the teammates don't like that either. You know what I mean? Like, they don't like, as shitty as Gio may have been and as pissed off as his teammates may have been at him. Like, to see their coach publicly trashing a player and questioning his effort
No.
and
They're
saying he was
pissed.
about to threaten
They
him
were
out.
pissed about that. They
You
were
know?
not happy. So, like, to me, that shit that he did at the symposium or whatever is a fireable offense. And then, you know, because this story refuses to not get better. His contract was up on the 31st of December. He will not be the coach the next time the team gathers. They're gathering this month for something. I can't remember. I read it somewhere. And yeah, he will not be the manager,
Mhm.
head coach at that gathering, bros. This
It's
is just a
wild.
mess.
It's a fucking mess.
And you
Yeah.
know, as my buddy said, this is why we cannot have nice things. Oh, okay. So breaking. It says U.S. Soccer announced that Anthony Hudson will serve as U.S. Men's National Team head coach for January camp. So there's a camp that they're gonna gather
Yeah.
for. I'm sure this will be like the first time that everybody gets together since World Cup, debrief, talk about what they want to accomplish for the year and all of that. And he's not gonna be the head coach there. Um, I don't see how this guy comes back, Nando, after this,
Oh, I don't think so either. He can't. He can't.
because the kid is 19. He's not like Ronaldo, where it's like his last cup, his last go round with the team.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be part of the team for the next decade. And
Yeah.
so the relation, this is a level of toxicity that just can't be fixed. There's nothing to fix here. This is done.
No, and yeah, I mean it's again, like I said, when you have a sort of such a limited talent pool, you have to do everything possible to fix the Gio Reyna situation. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
as sorry, he's a fucking 19-year-old punk. He's better. Like,
yeah.
he's good.
Yeah,
Score
that's it.
fucking
That's just
goals.
what we gotta do.
You know, like,
We
you gotta
gotta
figure
do
it
what we
out.
gotta do. We
It was
gotta
like,
do what we
is
gotta
this a
do.
true story? I remember, like, am I ever misremembering this? Like when Tony Parker like slept with his teammate's wife and they traded the teammate.
Well,
You know,
this isn't I no, I don't think allegedly he
allegedly.
got with Brent Berry's wife, but I don't think Brent Berry got traded. No, that's rumor and innuendo, and we don't know that that's actually true or not. I
Well,
think it's my
but
job
like
to
if it
say
were
that.
true, it would be a
Yes, no,
logical decision.
yeah, but Tony Parker did not. If it were true, he was not removed from the team. No, he was
No, no, and he wouldn't be.
probably
Brent Berry would be removed.
right. Exactly.
Brent, yeah, my
If
point is that
anything,
Brent
he was
Berry
probably at
would
that
get.
time. If he wasn't the best player, if Tim was still the best player, he was right behind him, second best player on
Yeah,
the team at the time. That just wasn't going to happen. And to be honest, we see exceptions get made for the best guys in sports all the time. And again, this isn't like Gio Reyna was he just behaved like a punk. He didn't
yeah,
do anything messed up. He just was a dumb 19-year-old. And so that is what it is. But yeah, we'll be monitoring that. Um, Premier League is back. Man City smoked their first opponent. I don't even remember who they played. It was 3-0, and then they somehow managed to tie Everton, which is
dude.
embarrassing.
Arsenal though. Arsenal is like. I mean, if Arsenal pulls off this league against the Man City juggernaut, it'll be a pretty impressive
Very impressive.
achievement. I fucking kid
Very
Martin
impressive. But
Odegaard.
there's enough
That
time
Madrid.
for Arsenal to blow it. Don't worry.
Oh no, of course. But that kid, fucking Martin Odegaard, Holland's teammate from Norway. They're both
Yeah.
like these kids are gonna I mean, that team. Madrid sold, but Madrid bought him when he was a child, when he was 16. He was like he came up through the Madrid ranks,
Wow,
and
I
they
did not
fucking
know that.
sold him for yeah, they sold him for fucking
Pennies.
peanuts to Arsenal, a little bit because of like the Gio Reyna situation that he was. I think it was last year or the year before. No, it was the year before. He was on the team. He was on the Madrid team, and he wasn't starting because like they got Modric and they got Cruz and whatever, and he
Mhm.
was like not reacting to that great, and Madrid fucking sold him. Um, and now I'm like, man, shit, like he's fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy for Arsenal. Their fans are really happy. I know a lot of them are very tortured people, but they're playing over their heads and killing it. I'm just happy that Premier League is back and yeah, we could do it. But yeah, that's our show for today. Want to thank everybody again for their support throughout the year. Looking forward to this new year. Become a Patreon at patreon.com/count the dings. That's a cup of Starbucks per month in order to do so. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. We're out of here.